I checked every single box. And I was so uncomfortable because I wasn't in my truth. I had made thousands of micro compromises.
This is your permission slip to destroy all of that and to just be unapologetically who you're here to be.
Hello, and welcome to the Unapologetically Yours podcast. I'm your host, Ashley Logan, and I am so happy to have you here today. Unapologetically Yours is a podcast where we go deep on everything from spirituality to relationships, connection, business, and belief systems, because in this world, we've been taught to play by a set of rules, and those rules don't always belong to us. So I'm here to help encourage you to ask questions and live a little unapologetically. And the guest that I have here today is so special and important to me. I'd like to introduce you to Ms. Lauryn Henley. Lauryn is a spiritual guide, a teacher, a conduit for Gaia, conduit for the divine, and a truth teller, freedom fighter. She is a unrelenting force for equality and for breaking the chains that bind so many of us. Lauryn, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
This is how I view you.
Thank you for that introduction. Yeah, I think I'm just in this place of right now of observing how I'm seen and learning who I am through the eyes of other people. Because I'm still piecing this iteration of me together.
Yeah, I can relate to this in so many ways. So, Lauryn, you used to be a principal at a school. You've worn so many different hats in your life. Yeah. And as you've collected all of those pieces along the way, it helps make you who you are today. But like when we're kids growing up, it's like, I want to be a marine biologist. I want to be a veterinarian and this. But it's like, I want to be a spiritual guide to help usher in a new, there's not a roadmap for how to talk about the impact that you're making in people's lives or a job description.
Yeah. I've done a lot of work around what is my purpose and what are my values and what's the world I want to create, and wanting to have an integrated life where whether I'm with my family and the holidays or raising my son or working with a client, it's not different in a world of what's your brand or what should your Instagram handle be, or, that's actually harder for me to kind of carve out. But I would say that, what's underneath all of it is liberation, the liberation of all species, not just human species, the liberation of the earth. That's what drives everything that I do.
I love the word liberation. It is so powerful. And so it's for people who don't yet know you, they're in for a treat because you've got some fucking wisdom to share. And so let's break this down a little bit. Liberation. Why do we need to be liberated?
Well, let me define it first. I work in an organization right now called Lead for Liberation. It's one of many jobs and things that I do, but my mentor, my boss there, Shana Renee Hammond, we co-created a definition of liberation that was very much influenced by her. And the definition that we give is it's the state of interdependence where we define success of the whole by the degree to which everyone can thrive, innovate, and experience belonging.
Sorry, can you just say that one more time?
Yeah. It's the state of interdependence where we define success by the degree to which every being can thrive, innovate, and experience belonging. Yeah, it's loaded. It is loaded. And really, once we defined it that way, I would have said my value was freedom, but freedom is such an individually focused word for me and in our culture. And a lot of people define it by being able to do whatever they want. And I don't think that's the freedom that is going to serve us now and in the future. I think that we have to redefine success by, is what I want going to allow others, other species, to thrive, innovate, and experience belonging, other people, other groups that are different than me, and how do we live in a state of interdependence, which when I ask people and talk to them about interdependence, there isn't even a vision in our culture of interdependence. What we have a vision of is either codependence or hyper-individualism.
Yeah, that's so true.
And interdependence is where people can experience wholeness and agency and individuality, but also honor their dependency around a group. I think the best example is like a 12-step room. If you've ever, been in a 12-step room, there's this really beautiful way that no matter who you are, if you're a CEO making millions of dollars, you're still going to make the coffee, put out the chairs, or run the meeting. You put aside your personality and all your kind of things that you're so tied to for what's best for the group.
Yeah.
But not in a sacrificial way. And
in a way of service.
Yeah. And we're just in a place where so few people are even connected to their own wholeness that service even feels like a threat, because you have to have wholeness individually to experience interdependence. And so we definitely have a road and a bridge to get there, but I'm passionate about trying to create that vision in my own life and also start to like map it and define it and break it down and say, like, this is how you would run your business, and this is how you might raise your child, and this is how you might be in relationship with your partner if you were honoring liberation and interdependence.
What's coming up for me are a couple of different things. Like, one, our relationship with like the animals in our own subdivision, and like how people see a coyote and they freak out, and but there's, where do they have to go anymore, and or how we're treating bees and our plants for pesticides and all of those things, where it's like, shit, that has such a ripple effect. And like the liberation of my fear of bees, I'm not afraid of bees, but then impacts so many other things. But the part about service, as like, I am such a giver, like that is something like I would give and give and give and give and give, but that became so weaponized and treat like, if I wanted to care for someone and nurture someone, I think this was a big piece of the feminine experience, that became then instead of service, servant, and this expectation without the gratitude, it doesn't feel as fulfilling and nurturing to do the nurturing as maybe it did in one point in time, because it's not valued. Because again, people are not connected and been so individualized.
Yeah, and I think another piece of it that's important, we say like, you can't solve a problem with the same consciousness that you use to create it. And you can give from any consciousness, you can receive from any consciousness. And when I talk about consciousness, to make it really simple, what I use as a reference is this, it's called The Map of Consciousness by David R. Hawkins. And he basically studied for 21 years the relationship between people's kinesiology and their emotional state and their energetic field. And then he mapped all of our emotions. The lowest is shame. There's a book called Power versus Force. And he found that when we were in emotions like shame and even anger, but also grief, apathy, the body went weak. And he called it force, that it was almost like a force was pushing down. When we got into courage, acceptance, and it goes up and up, that the bodies actually started to access their own power. And so, what we find, that's what I was talking about, like we live in a codependent relational culture where there's like either a very avoidant kind of polarity or a very dependent polarity, and that polarity is pulling, and it's all happening in that force vibration.
Yeah.
And from a lot of victim consciousness. Yes. And so that's why when we talk about interdependence intellectually, it's actually like such an alchemy of ourselves that has to happen in order to be available for that type of reality.
So I think about the work that you're doing in the world. And so, how are you helping people become more aware of their role in this lower vibration victim mindset, either codependent or
Yeah, it's kind of emerging in like three parts. That's what I'm seeing. So, first is supporting an individual, and then I'm supporting a lot of like partnerships and relationships in that way. And then the work I've always done is supporting teams and organizations. And so I'm seeing it kind of merging through that. And the individual work is, I call it like the ABCs of this because I believe that 90% of people aren't even able to feel their own emotional states, much less identify their consciousness. It takes so much personal emotional intelligence in order to be relational because ultimately everyone is you. And so you're being relational with yourself and parts of yourself that you probably don't know exist, and a lot of times don't want to know that exist. So I start teaching people first to identify when they're triggered and how to go into that trigger and to find the memories or the programs, whatever it is that is actually causing them to project that out onto their reality, and to ultimately realize that they have the agency to change whatever it is they're experiencing by changing their own consciousness. And that is the most courageous journey. But most of us are already in partnerships or raising kids or working with humans every single day. And so then the complications that arise when you have so many humans trying to interact in ways that are supposed to be relational, but the culture has set up as non-relational, then there's not the emotional intelligence. It is a disaster right now, and I say that with like so much compassion because most of us could write a resume faster than we could like share something vulnerable with someone that we care about or know how to deal with conflict. We could get a job, but we're not teaching people how to be in relationship with themselves and others. And then from there, how do we set up the conditions? Because we're in energetic relational containers, and those containers, if you don't consciously create the conditions, unconsciously get created. And then it's just a snowball.
what I'm so curious about is like what's at stake right now and how did we get here?
Mm. What's at stake? So, one of my first really intense spiritual activations, I connected to a future memory of myself, maybe like 4,000 years in the future, where I was living in a world where there was no life planets that were still alive. There were like a couple trees in a museum. People were mainly like technology and cyborgs with like a little bit of organic skin. So what's at stake is truly timelines where not only does this planet not exist and humans don't exist, but life doesn't exist. And how did we get here is a very complex question that I'm trying to think about the most. When we sign up to go into a body, onto a planet, or into a life, we sign up to, it's just like, I know you live where you live, you sign up to pay taxes, you sign up for the agreements that have been in that town. You weren't a part of creating them, and we signed up to continue a journey that humanity started, for some people think thousands of years ago, others millions, depending on, what storyline you believe. But it's just been a journey of fighting for power over this world is really, and those in power learn how to keep others in the margins and away from that power, and keeping us out of our bodies, ensuring that we breaking down our relationships, keeping us like overworked and exhausted is a really good way to hold power over a collective.
What resonates with me so much is like I know that I'm here as a defender of Gaia. like I am so deeply connected to.
Right, you are.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like my experience of you is that, we all hold memories. I think the greatest collateral that we have is our memories. And, just for people listening, like in my world, there's no doubt that we're eternal, that we live multiple lives, and that we're not just holding memories from this lifetime, and that our memories are being controlled as well. So my experience of you is that you consciously and unconsciously have memories of a time where there was more flow and peace and interdependence, more honoring of the Divine Mother on this planet. And part of you is here to hold those memories because so many of them have been deleted.
And our work together helped me to like uncover the things that I knew since I was a little girl, but then was conditioned, or, life and the things and the human experience. It's easy to doubt when you don't have someone holding up a mirror.
I think whatever is the majority rules, like it's just that simple. And if you're born into a culture where you don't see who you are internally reflected around you, you just assume that that's not who you're supposed to be, or there's something wrong with that. Right. And you start to teach yourself and train yourself to fit in with the dominant culture, because what other choices do you have?
Right. And when one of the things that is in our cells as human beings is to be part of a tribe, to be part of a community. Right. And I think that fear of abandonment, that fear of being kicked out of the group that's innate. The experience that I've had with you is that I do remember and hold something in me for how something should be or could be, and then sort of set me on a path of like, I need to talk about it.
Right. And I think, asking like what I think one of the things that I'm doing is helping people remember, connect, body, mind, and soul, rather than, personality. Our bodies do not get their needs met. We experience some kinds of levels of trauma, micro or macro. We disassociate from our bodies. Our souls disconnect from our bodies. And then our personalities take over to drive the spaceship without what I think is the soul to be in the body and to be driving the spaceship, but it's not safe. They don't know how to drive it, all these things. And so individually, I'm helping people like truly remember and bring back all the parts of who they are into this life, and remember the blueprint that they came here. I use the metaphor of the video game all the time. I'm like, we designed a game to play, and we came in, and then there's like amnesia. You don't remember why you came, or maybe you have glimpses of it, or going back to that dominant culture, you don't have any vision of that possibility, and then you shut all of these things down. And I just think we're in a time where we really need people to remember who they are.
So how did you know that you had this gift that you could help people to remember? How did you know that about yourself?
I didn't, honestly. I'm starting to really fully come into all of who I am. What I don't want to lose is the path that I took to get here.
Yeah.
And I want everyone who I ever talk to know that I can only talk about anything or know anything because I got my ass handed to me over and over and over again. And every kind of social rejection, pain, suffering, addiction, trauma that you can name, I've tasted some version of that, at some point in my life. And I thought I was broken. Like I walked around in the world like I am broken. Now, the one through line for me, no matter what, like I had this really confrontational experience with race in high school. I got really angry and passionate about ending racism, which is a very naive thing for a 20-year-old white girl to think. But it put me on a path. And So I was working on the west side of Chicago for 20 years. I was a principal by the time I was 30. I was teaching school by the time I was 20. That version of me was a freedom fighter, was so mission focused. And she's always been a part of me, pulling me forward no matter what, all these other things. And then I would say, like, my son, I got pregnant unexpectedly when I was, how old was I, 23? And at the time, my parents disowned me. Like, it was a total nightmare. Now, literally the catalyst for everything in my life. Like, he was the invitation for me to fracture. Okay, this is who my world growing up, and I grew up in the South, in the Redneck Riviera. This is your permission slip to destroy all of that, because it's getting destroyed anyway, and to just be unapologetically who you're here to be. And so but then I had to face the trauma, the addiction, all these layers that were in the way of that. I was also very religious. I was raised very Christian. I had just basically I destroyed that. Everything had to be destroyed in my journey. I don't think that has to be true for other people, but that was the path that was true for me. And then once I cleared all that out, then it was like, okay, how do I want to rebuild this body? How do I want to rebuild this consciousness? Who am I here to be? What values do I want to align to? What's my code going to be now that I have, deleted everything that isn't me?
I'm sitting here like picturing 22-year-old Lauryn walking through the world thinking she's broken.
Yeah.
And how many people out there who are so gifted and are walking around thinking that they're broken. And like my eyes are all welled up because it's just not true. And
that empathy, I can almost feel that part of me, like feeling so seen, and I don't ever want to forget her, and I don't want to forget how much she struggled just to get through the day. She just couldn't make sense of life. She couldn't even, how do I pay bills? How do I clean my laundry? How do I raise a kid and have a job? And much less, how do I build a business and, make millions of dollars, or whatever it is that I see people aspire to. Like, I couldn't even do the basics. I was actually a victim, which is different from victim consciousness. And like, I just believed that life was happening to me, and I couldn't imagine that life is happening for me. And I couldn't imagine that all of this that is happening is a reflection of all of these like generational trauma, conditioning, and trauma in my body. It was loaded into the system before I really had agency to choose for myself, right? And so it was just... And that's what gives me the heart for whoever I serve, because I was them. People are like, oh, I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm so emotional. Or I know this is so crazy. Or I know. And I'm like, if you could shock me, if you could outdo me, I would be very impressed. And I have yet to find that. It's like you're put into this really complex video game. Nobody taught you how to play it. And everything that could possibly be in place for you to lose is there. And then you blame yourself that you're not being successful in the game.
And the part that, of course, stands out to me is that here you created life with your fucking body. You made a human. It shows me how much has been lost in our culture, that you didn't feel seen and celebrated as
it was all like
I have so many rituals in my body around motherhood, and like they keep coming, Lauryn. Like,
I can't wait till you're like in the place where you're fully teaching that, and
like it makes me want to do a ritual for you of healing around you, like around all of this, the sacred act of motherhood, and the fact that it's just like not celebrated.
Well, I had a big healing around it because I think my sister had a baby this year.
Yes, congrats.
And, yes, and she's such an angel. And my sister is like, did like everything for like birthing at home. And I mean, basically the most aligned, values aligned, like life aligned, body aligned, everything you can imagine. And I was like, I remember them asking me what is a birth plan, what my birth plan was. And I was like, to go to the hospital? Like, what do you mean a birth plan? Like, no idea, what was the potential, what was possible. And then going, and I was with my sister when she gave birth and all of it like that. It was just a real full circle healing. And there's been a lot of like forgiving myself about like what the birth that I wish that I had and that I wish Talon had had. And I do truly believe that literally the birthing experience is and the way we do it and medicalize it is the number one way that the souls get separated from the bodies. And that we're just spending the rest of our lives trying to recalibrate from that. I do think there's obviously waves of parents doing this more and more differently now, but
yeah, I agree with you. And actually, Rebecca Campbell's new book talks all about this, and it's really interesting. It's been bringing up so much for me. What if we met our babies with the utmost ritual of love to say, thank you for being here with me. I love you. And just how we receive them and understanding that it is an absolute miracle that we are here in this room right now together, that our souls have met on this path at this exact time, and that we found each other and we connected, and that is what every birth is like. Holy shit. And I remember feeling that
there's a couple women around me that really were connected to that experience and understood how holy it was going to be. And I just think that's something really special that you already knew.
Yes, and it wasn't validated. We have put all of this power in the masculine when it comes to birth for a long time as male doctors, and men telling us what pain we could tolerate and how we need to do it, and writing the rules for how much maternity leave and all the stuff that we get. And it fucked us. And then to experience it firsthand was one of the biggest disappointments that I was like, holy shit.
Well, this is the paradox of, like, for example, your blueprint, right? The paradox is that you came here with the memories of a more earth life aligned way before domination, took over. And you had to experience the effects of it. So you've designed, your higher self designed a life where you wouldn't have what you needed on purpose, because that is going to be the fuel and the power that fuels you to create something different. And when we can start to see our journey through that lens, we can forgive ourselves and forgive others and accept, me getting pregnant and all that. That was the catalyst for everything that I am. I have this spiritual partnership relationship that I've been on and off for 10 years. It's been the most excruciating, painful relationship that anyone could ever imagine. It is everything that I have needed to fully activate in my power. And I had this meditation recently where I was like, because my whole life, one of the storylines was I never had a satisfying relationship. One of my first spiritual coaches was like, I get the impression you've never been well loved by a man. Like, that's an understatement. Anyway, I was having this meditation, and the story of like, I need a partner, I'll never have a partner. And I started feeling my grandmothers, my great grandmothers, and their great grandmothers. And I was like, whoa, like those women, even my mom to some extent, would give anything for the life that I have. I can do whatever the fuck I want. Those women could not. Those women had to get their husbands to sign for them to even have a bank account. They had to clean up their house or do whatever, because that's what was required of them in those roles. I don't have to do any of that. And something changed in me. And partnership is beautiful if that's the path but it's also a conditioned belief that we need that is our identity to have that. And I'm like, I am now finally at 42 creating the life that I most want to live. And I don't need another person to do that. And in fact, I don't know if I want to share my giant king size bed with them. I have a 4 or 5 bedroom house, and like 3 of the bedrooms are dedicated to me. I have a meditation room and I have an office. I'm like, where's he going to put his stuff? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah. Oh my God. And that, like, okay, but that vision, that picture of you, like the grandmother. So I look, my mother, and this is for everyone listening. Look at this. Look at it. We criticize the previous generation for what they didn't do, but fuck, they did so much for us.
They survived.
For us to be here, to be free, to be connected, to be wearing whatever we want, to be doing what we want, talking about what we want. And I think my mother, okay, raised, her choices were be a flight attendant, be a nurse, go to home ec. She's 70.
Right.
You know?
My mom.
And then her mom, the choice was teacher or nurse. Home ec. That's it. Her mother, no work. Keep the home, raise 5 daughters. Her mother.
Yep. So, yeah, there's so many different ways to look at it. But ultimately, like, I am choosing to see how life is for me. And that if I didn't design a life to have a partner or get married, it must have been the highest and best design for what I'm here to do and how I'm here to live. It's another way of decolonizing, because we create so much lack from looking at other people's realities that they came here to create and then thinking we should have that too, or we shouldn't have that. And then the next level is, okay, I want to create a world. Now, will this world I create keep other people from creating the world they want to create? Or will it encourage and expand the number of people that can thrive, innovate, and experience belonging on the planet, right? And if your world, for example, creates tons of pollution, it could be emotional pollution, it could be physical pollution, then you're creating a world that is not interdependent with all the other worlds and all the other people creating worlds. Style is even an expression of that. Like, why wouldn't I wear a dragon play suit with a highlighter color coat to Starbucks? Well, because if I'm really honest, like, it's going to stand out. It doesn't fit with the norms. That's the norms of a world that I wasn't part of creating. That may not be the world that I want to be a part of. So even when you dress a certain way, you're saying, like, this is, in my world, this is how we look.
I love that. It's like, this comes down to the rules that were created by other people and that we don't have to
follow.
We don't have to follow them.
And that's what liberation is. But first you have to wake up to the rules. Most of the rules are so unspoken and so quiet and so accepted that if you were to ask someone, they wouldn't even know.
Oh my God. Yeah. Why are we doing these things? Like, this was a big thing. Like, when you were talking earlier about, like, the state of consciousness, why don't we talk about a little bit about what I was like when we first met? Because
what's your perception of what you were like?
Well, I mean, I think I was someone who was, like, knew that there was something in me and wasn't sure how to unlock it. And I think that I was less free. Like, so only
Yeah, what I'm trying to tap into, like, that first call we had, you had been fully followed the path that had been laid out before you about the partner, the life, the job. You had adapted all of the master's tools basically to be successful in that. And there was this other part of you waking up, and you were so anxious and uncomfortable in your own skin because you were out of integrity with yourself in so many areas because you're like, okay, this is not the life that I think I'm supposed to be living, but I don't know how to get out of this life to start to create that life.
Right. I had built a multi 7-figure business. I had married the guy. I had moved in the affluent suburb. I had had the children in rapid fire. I checked every single box, every box for what a successful woman in Western
XYZ,
civilization.
right.
And I was so uncomfortable because I wasn't in my truth. I had made thousands of micro compromises. And then when we were connected, I was like, like I didn't know. How do you get out? Like, and I'm going to go on a quick tangent here for a second. There's so much out there about like how white women cost us the election and all of these things. And white women don't have necessarily the tribe built in, don't have the cut and dry path for untangling from the patriarchy. And that's exactly what I had to do, was untangle.
Well, can I say something about that? I could talk about like obviously the race thing and all that for its own podcast.
I know.
But in this current setup, our oppressors are the men.
Yes.
The way that you stay safe in oppression is either you like run and hide and isolate, or you get really good at keeping the oppressor happy or following the rules of your oppressor.
Yeah.
And so white women are the least likely to wake up around it because they're so entangled with it.
Yeah.
And if we asked most people to say, what is patriarchy? How does it show up in your day-to-day life? What it really is to be a woman versus what you've been programmed to be through the lens of patriarchy, it's invisible. If it's invisible, I can't become aware of it. I can't break it down. I can't say, no, I want this or I don't want this, right? To be able to elect Donald Trump, in my opinion, with the traits of toxic masculinity that he, under any conditions, to choose that means that there's a level of patriarchal control and conditioning, because it's so normalized for us to accept those characteristics, but trust that they're going to lead the family or that they're going to make the money. Still within that, we hold a certain level of privilege that we're just above, generally speaking, being really destroyed by the impact. You see what I'm saying? So as white women, if we stay in that, if we support that patriarchy, we still get to live in like some safety and privilege by supporting that. But people of color, immigrants, like queer folks, trans folks, like they don't have some of they can't check the boxes to try to stay on that line of power and privilege.
Right.
They don't even have that option.
Yeah.
And so that's why white women get so colluded with this system.
If it's so, the entanglement is so
deep.
And I think it's deeply painful. And what's at stake, and you experience this, is your whole life.
Your whole reality.
Like, your whole reality.
So it's like, obviously part of my work I do is I work with white bodies to wake up and decolonize. And it's like, it's basically asking someone to go through pain that's not going to benefit them, but is going to benefit other people. And that's why white consciousness is so resistant to waking up. The level of like personal disruption, personal responsibility, the grief that you have to feel for what each individual has co-signed with, it's more than most people are willing to choose at this time.
It's so hard.
And I think, unfortunately, because of that, then we've had collectively chosen another route, which is now we're going to have to all face the collective consequences of this consciousness through being a part of war, poverty, the stock market crash, lack of food and resources. Like all the things that are coming are because we chose to collectively wake up instead of really to individually wake up.
Going back to like when we met, I think this is the things that felt so scary. How dare I ask for more? How dare I examine this? How dare I look at that I'm so disconnected, that I feel so out of alignment? And any other person, any white person, any person of privilege would be like, the fuck are you doing?
The more you continue to become unapologetically yourself, the more misunderstood, the more rejection, and that's the part that I feel in you that's always hurting and always wanting to be seen and understood. While she deserves that, it's part of the choice to be liberated, right? It's because we are a small minority waking up in a collective majority. We just may not get that justice in this lifetime, but where we find the justice is in our circles and in the people that do see us and in the people that do reflect back to us the same values, and the more that I have in the last couple years built those circles and those circles have arrived, I realized that also part of growing up in the culture I grew up with was constant negative projection that I internalized. And now I've created a life surrounded by people who positively project. They see my best qualities instead of my worst qualities. Like I said, I'm learning to believe, right, these positive projections, and learning. And also, one of my biggest intentions over the last 5 years has been that my outer life would match my inner life, because I was doing all this inner work, but if you kind of like looked at my just day to day, it didn't match. And at the end of the day, I just want to be in integrity in all areas, and I want my inner and outer world to match. And so when people reflect back to me more of who I know myself to be internally, then I'm like, okay, I'm in integrity with who I am. If people are reflecting back something different, then there's something that needs to adjust. It may be inside of me, it may be the circles. But I just think specifically for you, because this is coming up for you, is like, you got to keep calling in. Well, one, heal the part of you that's been rejected, because she keeps calling in rejection to try to be seen. And you actually need to heal her so that you can call in the people that see you as you really are and stop calling in the rejection,
Mm-hmm.
And have circles that are holding you in that way.
It's so interesting. And just the pathway of noticing the patterns, noticing the people, and when you create space for the right people to come in, how different it feels.
It's a whole
different
reality. Yeah.
And it's an amazing, amazing thing.
And they're seeing your most authentic self. That's the other thing too. Like it still floors me that like I can dress like this and have these conversations and be the most weird. And this isn't like a tenth of my weird. And have people be like, oh my God, I love hanging out with you. It's like Lauryn 10 years ago, Lauryn 20 years ago would never, ever, I couldn't even be with those parts of myself, I thought I have to be, 120 pounds and like very sexy. Like that's what matters around like being seen. And really I only care about being seen by men. Women, they're okay. It's like this, which is all at the end of the day, like patriarchy and the conditioning of a culture that puts women so low on the totem pole and as such low value.
I feel like that is the core wound that I'm...
Right. You're holding the wound of the mother, right? And Gaia, as a planetary consciousness, has felt that rejection. I have had, deep meditation experiences where I even felt my betrayal that I was feeling in my life was the same betrayal that Gaia feels about humans and bodies that she helped create, destroying her and destroying her people, right? So it's actually such a gift to connect to that. And you want to have the consciousness to not let it create your whole reality at the same time. It's just, that's the paradox, is like our wound is our greatest gift. And how do we hold it in a way that helps us to like have compassion and empathy and understanding, but not keep creating the wound over and over.
Right. Have you ever worked with someone that wasn't holding a gift or holding something that was going to contribute to the greater good?
No.
Never.
I mean, I would even say as a principal with students and kids, and every year, like my most difficult student, whether I was a principal or a teacher, I had this commitment. I'm going to love them the most. I'm going to learn how to be in relationship with them. And those are the kids I still think about. I still follow on Facebook, and they had something just so unique that they were bringing, and an offering that they have, like it's like we all have an offering to give, and it's usually way more wild and way more unique than anything you could ever imagine. And it's just like, how much are you going to let it come out?
I think that that's the magical piece. I think that's the thing, is that every single person on this planet is here for a reason, with a gift, with something to offer. And if you continue to play by the rules, follow the very
Template.
specific template that was
Yeah.
created to keep us in oppression, to keep us from connecting,
And
as you said,
oppressing
our soul.
others. Yeah.
Yep.
And it's ironic because in my life and as a teacher and all that, you love a good template, right? It is helpful. It's helpful that someone can kind of give you some guidelines, right? But when those templates become bars, when they become prisons, then now it's not a template anymore. It's not a choice. It's become the way that things have to be. And when you're starting then to use police brutality and organized violence and all types of things to hold people within those bars and within those rules, that we are far, far away from what this place was to be. It was a place to come and create and to explore and experience, and ultimately to bring all these, I believe, like species from all over the cosmos into a body, into a shared similar system to get to know one another. I think diversity and interdependence was the whole name of the game to begin with. And then something else, as it does when power and control and fear start to get in the mix, you start to separate, you start to divide, you start to protect. And so, the level of courage that's required to be free. And that's why I don't have judgment about those that don't choose it. I don't have judgment of people who stay in those bars, because I do understand. And if someone had told me what was required of me, I would never have chosen it. I feel like I got dragged through my evolution until now I'm at the side where I'm like getting to enjoy it. It's not simple, and it's not easy, and it really almost has to be a calling, that there's something inside of me that so wants to be birthed and so wants to exist here, that whatever I'm going through, whatever is asked of me, must be worth it.
I think it is worth it.
I know you do. And I just want to honor how much courage you've expressed in this year alone. I mean, we've only really known each other a year, haven't we?
Like a year and a half.
I mean, since I met you till now, you just keep bulldozing ahead, and with a smile on your face and with love, and you bring joy. You still access your joy through it all. And, you are choosing it. You need more people honoring and reflecting back to you all that you are choosing and how courageous you are and have been.
It was a really cool experience, because gratitude is such an important part of the journey. It always has been. Like nightly prayers.
Well, I think it helps us focus on the ways that life is working for our highest good versus against us. Yeah.
And I had the chance to think about all of the people this last year who have shown up for me in ways big and small, and I wanted to make a gift for them. And I just gave you yours, but it was over 40 people.
Wow. That's beautiful.
Who and oh my God, it's just there's so much love. There's so much
beauty,
beauty. There's so
support
much
available
support. It's
all the time. Yeah.
all the time. So,
And we just choose where you put your awareness. What are you
right,
putting your awareness on in
right.
each moment?
Exactly. I could have, like, we all, as the collective, can focus on the fear. When you focus on the love, you focus on the gratitude and that vibration,
Right.
those emotions that are at the higher level, not getting smushed, but
Right.
lifting. That's like, that can give any one person who's like, oh gosh, I've got this feeling inside of me. I've got this thing I want to access, but I don't know how to do it. Focus on the love. Find your Lauren who's going to look at you and be like, I love you. I got you. I'm not going to judge you. I've seen it all. Give it to me, baby. And give it to her. Because then what happens after that
Right.
is
A ripple.
that can bring you back into alignment where, like, I'm not itching to get out of my skin. I feel comfortable in my skin. I feel connected to my body. Like, all of this was started by meeting you.
Mm.
Wild. And that wasn't that long ago.
I mean, I talk about paradoxes all the time because I think we have to be able to hold in this new consciousness for interdependence. We have to be able to hold multiple things that seem opposite as true at the same time, right? Which is like we have to be able to be loved and hold all of that. And then at the same time, we have to face our shadow. We have to be willing to feel the feelings that we don't want to feel, right? We have to be accountable. And usually in all of these polarities or paradoxes, we have a preference of a side. I was on the side where I didn't like taking responsibility. I liked feeling sorry for myself. I liked blaming other people. At some point, I actually got addicted to if this is my responsibility, if I have to clean this up, like that's too much. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So you eventually, some of that victim consciousness is just an avoidance of like what it would be like if I really had to face that this is all me doing this, right? And then some people overdo that, and they need to access more of their victim and let themselves cry and be like, okay, honey, you went through a hard time and we're proud of you that you picked up your bootstraps and you kept going, you've muscled through, but now you've cut off all your emotions and you're stoic and we can't find you anymore. Like, you can fall on the floor and lose your shit if you need to, or beat the shit out of something. You know, it's just like, where do we fall on these paradoxes, and are we willing to lean more to the side that is less comfortable?
Okay, so one last question for you.
Okay.
What are you doing to show up in the world unapologetically?
I mean, I think everything. I will say, like, I'm coming out of like 2 or 3 years of what I call my hermit years, where my self-esteem was really low, especially about my physical self. I was so scared to take risks, like all these things. I just had just too much heartbreak for like one person for a while, and I needed to go within. And so I'm re-exploring, and I shout out Tally Kogan and I have a whole constellation of so many women. I could list the number of women that hold me and support me. But Tally is a stylist who I know you know, and she really sees you. And she's been seeing me now for like a few years. And so her helping me connect back to my style, because that's always actually been such an important thing to me. And I, like, for 2 or 3 years, like, was wearing like monochrome, like hiding, like, you know, giant sweatsuits and all these things. So there's risks involved, right? To some degree. And I do a lot of things that are risky, and I'm willing to do them, have been willing to do them behind closed doors. And I'm coming forward and choosing to do that more publicly and to see what that's like and what that feels like.
I can see it. Like, I can see how you're lit up, and there's like a new ease with you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for seeing me.
Thank you for seeing me. It's such a gift to be seen.
It is. It's one of the greatest. It's probably the number one reason we keep choosing to be human, because a body and eyeballs will allow you to see and be seen if you let it.
Well, how can people, do you want people to find you? Are you ready?
If you
ready to come out?
Okay, let me just say, I have an Instagram and it's public. But if you look at it, it'll just be my pictures of my dogs and my son and my vacations. But if you want to DM me, it's Lauryn Henley on Instagram, Lauren with a Y. My email is laurenhenley@gmail. I don't have a website. I just can't decide if I even want these things. Like, I can't decide yet if they're in alignment for me, but I know that the right people will find me, and I'm happy for them to email me and Instagram me and all the things. I just haven't decided yet if I want to be like branded, and have all that. I'm not saying anything's wrong with it. It's just I can't do it until I feel like this is it for me. So yeah. I just have had the experience that, just like finding you, I mean, it was just very weird and, kind of out of left field, like all the right people arrive. And so I absolutely would want anyone who resonated with this conversation and wants to learn more or feels called to talk to me for whatever reason, you can DM me on Instagram or email me at Gmail.
I'm so glad that we had this time together. We covered a ton of super celestial, galactic, spiritual, thoughtful territory. But I think the main takeaway is that we are all connected. It takes courage in this life, on this planet, to be your full self.
Yeah.
And you've never been safer to be your full self.
Right. A paradox.
A paradox. And it's essential. And if you feel that little nudge in your soul that there's more for you, there is. The path might be hard.
Right.
Path might be hard. You might burn some shit, and that part's hard. But the vibration.
Right. The experience of freedom and peace on the other side is something that is invaluable. It's priceless. And it's the thing that is being stolen from us.
You can truly say that the light, I have so much more to learn, and learning and growing and being human is not a destination. You don't arrive at some point. It's part of it to keep learning, taking in, keep assessing where you fit in the balance of things.
Right.
But being in that higher vibration,
worth it.
It's worth it. So thank you so much for tuning in. This is Lauryn Henley. She's amazing. She looks cool as shit. Dresses cool as shit, and she is cool as shit. Great person to be around, and thank you for being on. And remember to like, follow, subscribe, leave a review, all the things. And if you've got comments or want to reach me for any reason, Ashley D. Logan, my website, ashleydlogan.com, or at Unapologetically Yours podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. Until next time, I'm Ashley, this is Lauren, and we are Unapologetically Yours.